The first step, Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Gray clouds hovered over the tenement buildings like a permanent stain on the sky, filtering the sun into a pale, lifeless glow. I was 9 the first time I realized the streets kept a different clock. The safety of daylight was a sham, a suggestion meant to comfort kids foolish enough to believe it. I leaned over the stairwell, peering down at the broken glass and crumpled beer cans collected like offerings to the concrete altar below. My name echoed faintly from the empty walls as my mother called me in for dinner, but I lingered. The air reeked of sour desperation, and it was then I began to notice how every breath tasted faintly of its residue. The projects had a heartbeat at night, a rhythm dictated by shouts, sirens, and the occasional sharp crack of something either innocent or menacing. I'd lay in bed and feel the walls tremble like some giant machine groaning under its own weight. At school, my teacher droned on about personal choices and how we controlled our destinies, but outside the classroom, that idea was a rusty coin tossed into a bottomless fountain. In the world I knew, the rules were already set, carved into the grime and concrete, where even the most innocent action cast a long shadow. I didn't choose the old, pockmarked 1990 Cadillac DeVille parked outside, its smashed window a portal to temptation. Yet, somehow, I knew it had already chosen me. That was the first time I met Jacob. Tall for 16 and lean like a wolf, he had a way of smiling that made you think he knew a joke no one else dared to laugh at. He saw me staring at the car, and the grin spread wider, the kind that lured you in and choked you before you realized you'd been had. He gestured me over with a lazy flick of his hand, like I was a stray dog sniffing too close to his pack. The way he said, "Hey kid," with that half-dipped tone made me want to back away, but some invisible thread pulled me closer. My heartbeat quickened. I felt like a rabbit standing at the edge of a snare, but curiosity, sweet and sticky, clung to my shoes. Jacob popped the door open with practiced ease, a screwdriver clutched in his fist like a wand controlling some dark magic. He leaned back, appraising his work, and said the world splits into two kinds of people, those who talk and those who take. For a moment, I didn't know if he expected an answer until I realized no. He was already telling me which one I was. The thrill of that one stolen moment burned down my throat like gasoline. Everything in me knew this was wrong, that I should turn around and walk straight home. But the fear twisted inside me like something alive, boasting that maybe, just maybe, this right here was how you learn to survive. Jacob didn't say much else as we rolled through streets I hadn't seen before, him weaving the Cadillac like an artist sketching on canvas. The city got smaller when you rode above it, the cracked sidewalks turning into rivers of possibilities. He told me to keep watch, which felt like a command but landed like a rite of passage. I scanned the faces of the people outside, some of them turning away while others stared too long, suspicion and surrender warring in their tired expressions. It hit me then, eyes could be as dangerous as fists, and Jacob seemed to know exactly when to ignore and when to stare someone down so hard they'd flinch first. We didn't go far, just a gas station parking lot where Jacob sold something from his pocket with the efficiency of a street magician. I stayed in the car, every muscle stiff, ready for an alarm to ring or red and blue lights to flood the windshield. The shame came hot and heavy, like a soaked blanket draped over my shoulders, but there was something else too, even harder to shake. It was the knowing I couldn't unsee how Jacob moved, how he spoke in low whispers that sucked the air out of rooms and left nothing but silence in their wake. Whatever he was, even at 9 years old, I could feel it creeping into my ribs, turning shapeless doubts into strange ambitions. Back home, the apartment felt smaller than it did that morning, claustrophobic in a way that pressed against my skin. My mother sat at the table, sorting through a pile of overdue bills, her brows furrowed in silence, broken by the muffled sound of the neighbors arguing upstairs. I ate my dinner in quick, mechanical bites, my tongue still tasting the edges of the decisions I'd made hours before. I asked her once why we never moved, why we stayed locked in the same place like prisoners beneath peeling paint. She said life doesn't always give you ladders. Sometimes you just have to keep climbing on jagged rocks. It sounded right when she said it, but by then I'd seen Jacob, and now I wasn't so sure. That night, as I lay staring at the water-stained ceiling, I thought about the Cadillac and Jacob's words. I couldn't help but replay them over and over. It wasn't the first time I'd seen someone doing things people weren't supposed to do, but it was the first time I felt the weight of wanting to understand it. The projects weren't simple, they were a mirror, and what stared back at you wasn't always your own reflection. We grow into what we see, like plants leaning towards sunlight, and here, the light shined only where the shadows decided. The rain started tapping against my window, and I closed my eyes, praying the rhythm could wash away the broken clock ticking inside me. Somewhere deep in my mind, a verse flickered but refused to form clearly, something about evil rising while good men stayed silent.